Pain should never decide how far you ride. If you've ever cut a ride short because of discomfort, you're not alone, and that's exactly the problem Zeta set out to solve. Every Zeta bike saddle is engineered with reactive padding technology designed to respond to your body and movement in real time. The result? Less vibration, fewer pressure points, and reduced hotspots, so you can stay focused on the ride, not the pain. And the difference is something you feel immediately. Better support, smoother miles, the kind of comfort that helps you ride longer, stronger, and farther than ever before. Because no two riders are the same, Zeta offers a variety of saddle shapes, widths, and ride styles, so you can find the perfect fit for your body and the way you ride. Stop adjusting to your saddle and start riding with one built for you. Ride pain-free. Ride Zeta. Visit us at zetasaddles.com today and find your perfect fit.
Zeta Saddles is a proud sponsor of the Irish Legacy podcast. Be sure to follow, subscribe, and listen wherever you get your shows. Welcome to the Irish Legacy podcast, presented by UCB Ireland, honouring the past, investing in Ireland's future. Whether your family name traces back to the hills of Kerry, the streets of Dublin, or the rugged coastlines of Donegal, this podcast is for everyone who carries a piece of Ireland in their heart. Here on the Irish Legacy podcast, we'll explore the stories, traditions, and Christian faith that have shaped generations of Irish families around the world. So, whether you're listening from Ireland, America, or anywhere else across the globe, welcome home.
Ireland is a small island that carried an outsized spiritual legacy for over 15 centuries. From the monasteries that preserved the Christian civilization during Europe's dark ages, to the missionaries who carried the gospel to far corners of the earth, to the men and women who held onto their faith at the cost of everything they had. That faith didn't stay on Irish soil. It travelled in the hearts of her people, woven into the bloodlines and the family stories that are still unfolding today.
Our guest this episode is a living example of exactly that. Suzanne Bock Badger is a direct descendant of Grace Gifford Plunkett, the woman immortalized in one of the most beloved Irish songs ever written. And she carries that thread of courage, conviction, and faith into her life, her family, and her work today. From the Texas State Legislature to Houston radio to the halls of St. Mary's University, her family story is one of legacy lived out loud.
And this April 27, she and her husband Brian will be setting foot on Irish soil with the UCB Ireland Christian Heritage Tour, bringing that story to full circle. This conversation is about faith, it's about family history, and what it truly means to pass something eternal from one generation to the next. Suzanne, welcome to the Irish Legacy podcast.
Oh, thank y'all very much. So excited.
It is
to be
great
here.
to see you. Listen, we're going to get straight into it. There's so much to talk about, so we're going to get straight into it if you don't mind.
For sure.
A lot of people will know the song Grace. So many people sing it here. It's just one of those choruses that just comes up, and I sing it so often, it's just in my head. But actually, you carry Grace Gifford Plunkett's bloodline. So what has it meant to you growing up knowing Grace is part of your story?
Well, this is the funniest part. So I didn't know this until last year, about a year ago. I was newly married and looking for some kind of hobby. And my dad used to tell me, we have a lot of Irish roots on my maternal grandmother's side. That's what he told me. So his maternal grandmother was a Newell. And he said, somewhere on that side, there are some Irish roots. And I've been doing a whole lot of, genealogy. And he says, and, I can show you some of the things I have and, this and that. So I started doing a little bit of research, but then I got really stuck into just the history. And all I wanted to do my entire, first years of married life, besides hang out with my husband, was read. And I read so many books, mostly on the Easter
Hmm.
Rising. I didn't know why I was drawn to that story. I had no idea why I was fascinated with these two main characters. I was fascinated with Joseph Plunkett and started reading about him. I started reading about, his family and what a prestigious family he came from, and then the relationship that he had with Grace, and thinking about the struggle. It's the perfect, I would say, character arc, so to speak. When you're writing something, I've always been a
Hmm.
creative person, so as I kept reading, I kept writing things down. And I'm like, I think this is like a movie, or this might be there might be something here that hasn't been explored. So I just started, I don't know, putting things together. And then I started writing a screenplay. And it kind of just took me to all these different, places in history. And so I was newly married and I had a couple of kids. And by the second child, I was trying to shop the screenplay to different places. I had some people who, took it and said, oh, I'll get it to the right people. And then it just sort of sat there. And my second child was a little more hands on. And so I didn't have as much time to devote to that. Fast forward to I'd say about 4 years ago, when I was doing some things having to do with my family, and I started looking at family history again. My parents had died, and I started going through a lot of genealogy stuff again. And I found all my screenplay stuff, and I said, "Oh yeah, I pitched this, and it never really went anywhere. I wonder, if somebody's interested again." Sent it to a friend of mine who's a producer in Hollywood. She was really very interested in it. She says, "I'd love to, see what we could do with this." I'm like, "Oh, I think I might like to take a look at it again and maybe do another revision." She says, "As soon as you have the revision, let me know." So I've been kind of working on that for a little while. Last year was a crazy year for me. I had cancer, and I came down with ovarian cancer. I was booked to go to Ireland last year, and we had to put everything on hold because in February I had a hysterectomy, and I said I'll do it early so that I can be well by the time it's time to go to Ireland. And they said, "Do you have cancer?" And I was just absolutely flabbergasted. And so I couldn't do a whole lot during the cancer treatment. And we had to cancel the trip. And I was really just so disappointed. And a friend of mine had introduced me to some new research tools for genealogy. And I went into the site called Family Search, and they have a lot of things within the globally within that community. It's based out of Utah, where the Mormons are. They're really great at genealogy. And so I don't know, one day I was just sort of picking up some literature and started reading, I'm like, oh, just for fun, because you can go on there and see what celebrities you're related to and whatever. And I said, oh, just for fun, I'm going to put in Joseph
Hmm.
Plunkett. And because I've always been drawn to their story, I've always been like, even in my early 20s, when I was just starting to have children, I was writing to people in Ireland. I was writing to whatever family members I could get a hold of. I'm like, give me some information, just help me out. And I got a lot of things from the from Kilmainham. They had sent me a package of some things in history. A woman was really kind there and sent me like pictures of her and things like that. Well, I put in Joseph Plunkett in this family search, and it says you're related to Grace. And then here comes the line all the way up. It's like super far up. So I'm related to Grace's line up further, obviously, because she didn't have children. And so I looked at that and I said, you've got to be kidding me. All this time I was looking at other ways that I could be related to people in not necessarily in Irish history, but just Irish, just because my dad said that we had Irish roots. And then I was just like, well, it makes complete sense now that I've been obsessed with this story, given that I'm now related to her. And now I kind of feel like, now that my children are grown and doing their own thing, and I'm empty nesting, and we want to go to Ireland because I've never been. I thought, I'm going to figure this out. I've got to put this together. So I've been putting things together, and I'm at that point where I've got to go and get my feet on Trinity soil. I've got to go talk to some people. I've got to go do a few things, because I don't think you can legitimately put a story together unless you have been to the place and experienced it. You can't just, I mean, it's because it's not a made up place. It's a real place. So I want to tell her story. I want to know her more. I've always wanted to know her more, and I didn't know why, and now I know why.
Mm. Well, Suzanne, you certainly have inspired me to take one of those family ancestry tests, because I don't know if I'm related to anybody famous, but it'd be kind of fascinating to see. Maybe I'm like from the Princess Diaries
Yeah.
and I'm a princess.
It's highly possible, and it's not. I didn't do a DNA one. I just did. I just put in all the. I just put in all the pertinent information.
Yeah.
And if you look at Grace and what she looked like as a young girl, I can kind of see that. I have some of the some of the face,
Yeah.
I've always had really, pale skin, freckles,
True
my
Irish
hair
woman.
was a
Beautiful.
little
True
on the
Irish
red
woman.
side when I was little. Yeah. Even though I have
Yeah.
a German, a German and an English last name.
Yeah, definitely. And, talking to Robbie a lot about Irish heritage, y'all are like proud. So you should be proud of this, Suzanne, and get over to Ireland and represent. Your father served in the Texas legislature, and
Yeah.
his legacy is now honored at St. Mary's University School of Law, which is incredible, by the way. I don't know anybody that cool.
Yeah.
Other than you,
Thank
Robbie,
you.
right?
Thank you.
You're cool. What were the core values that your father really lived by, and that you hope that honor really carries forward?
Oh, wow. Well, my dad was a very business oriented person, which is why his legacy continues at St. Mary, because what he wanted to do was he wanted to put together law and business, just have something for just business law and digital within the confines of the university. And so he sat down with the university and talked about putting something like that together. The things that stick out for me that I guess shaped who I am. I can remember going with him campaigning when I was younger. I can remember going to the Texas House and sitting in a chair similar to this one that had the state seal on it. And I can remember just learning a whole lot about how things were done, like laws. And, so I knew a lot of that way before most of my friends knew, and I really enjoyed his friends, getting to know his friends, and going to the political scene of things. My dad was a very creative person, and he was also very much into writing. He would write short stories, he would write poems, he would write all kinds of things. And so he was always very I guess you could say encouraging, and he agreed to be my editor when I had the screenplay finished, and went through and did his little thing. I'm going to do a revision here, and I don't like this word. I like this word instead. And that was good to have his take on it too. So I learned a from him, just about life and about creativity.
Very, very cool.
Suzanne, you mentioned the fact that you're coming to Ireland next year with the UCB Ireland Christian Heritage Tour, and the fact that you didn't make it last time. But first of all, if you don't mind me, can I ask, how are you now with your health? How is it?
Oh, thank you. Well, these curls are courtesy of my oncologist.
Okay,
I had a clean scan in September,
wonderful.
and I'm continuing to get clean bills of health. About a week, I'm going back, and they're going to do some more tests and make sure that I'm okay. But I feel good. I feel really good, and I don't know why that I wasn't. This is the second time that I have tried to go to Ireland and something big has happened.
Hmm.
So maybe the third time's a charm. The first time I tried to go, I was working for a television show, and the people who were putting together some things for an event that they were having in Houston, where they had teamed up with some people in Dublin, kind of like a sister city sort of thing, and we were going to go over there, and we were going to be making just a really nice video about Irish history and Irish food and just the culture. And we had bought our tickets, everything. And then about 2 or 3 days before, this big shutdown happened, where we're shutting all of Ireland down, no inside visitors.
Yeah,
We have hand, mouth, and foot. And
I remember that. Yeah.
I was devastated. And she said, the host of the show that had asked me to come produce, she said, there's not anything we can do.
No.
And I don't even think we can reschedule, because the festival that we're putting together is on this date, and we don't know how long the country's going to be shut down, and we have to have this amount of time to put this thing together. So
But here you are now. So next
yeah,
April, you're going to be walking
I
the land
am.
of your ancestors.
Lord
Okay.
willing, yes.
What do you most anticipate from that experience, or about that experience? What's the hope for you?
That I would gain more clarity on the people that I have learned about and written about.
Right.
I focus so much on Joseph being sickly like he was, and
Hmm.
and still going to fight.
Yeah.
And I had so much of my intellect divested in that side, and all of the people that he joined to make that happen, and all the odds that I mean,
Mm.
all the infighting, Bulmer Hobson and all that. But
Mm.
like, I start thinking about her, and maybe taking what I have and revamping it so that I know more of her, because I feel like the first time I really had a good vision, and still have a very decent vision, but now I kind of feel like a little nudge going, what about my story?
Right.
Like
Right.
almost, not that I believe she's talking to me or anything. It's like,
Yeah.
what about Grace's story? What about her do we need to know? And how does that impact me? You
Yeah.
know?
She's a remarkable woman. Absolutely remarkable woman. I know that.
And I'm not going to lie, you guys, I really look forward to sitting down with a cup of tea. Yes, I drink tea tonight with my little dark chocolate and looking up Grace's story, a documentary. There's got to be a million documentaries out there on YouTube.
I haven't seen too many. That's the issue. Is
Really?
like, I want to know. Well, probably because what I do know, I'm used to. I want to do like maybe a deeper dive than that. Like, I want
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
know more about her parents and her grandparents. The grandparents that I'm related to, and that sort of thing.
Mm.
But she does have a fascinating story.
Well, I don't know, Suzanne. I might have to go to Ireland with you then.
Come
I
on,
think I can
Yeah.
be
bring
a
it.
tag along,
Yeah.
right?
We no. We got space for
A
you,
groupie.
Hannah. We got space for you. No problem.
There's plenty of
No problem.
space.
I know you do. Grace's story is inseparable from the faith that fueled the 1916 Rising. How do you see that intertwining of faith and Irish identity reflected in your own life today?
Well, I see some tenacity. overcoming odds. It probably wasn't very easy for her to let him go right before they were going to get married to do
Mm.
this.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't easy for her to, even though she was amongst other people who were very much for the cause, it probably wasn't easy for her to be maybe looked down upon by some family members because of her faith and her beliefs. She was not Catholic. He was.
Mm.
So I look at how much faith it takes to overcome those challenges, at least for that point in time. Now I don't think it matters as much, but back then that was like a major civil unrest. And so I look at what it took within her to overcome the obstacles that she faced, and then to have her, look at him being, an invalid, so to speak, because there were times when well, I mean, for part of the war, he was an invalid
Mm.
and really struggled. And I look at what that cost him, energy wise. And my husband has a autoimmune, so we've had to trade off on who gets to be sick like this last year,
Right.
because boy bless him, he hadn't had it easy taking care of me. I don't want to say I'm high maintenance, but cancer made me a little extra, if you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying.
Yeah. Mm.
So,
Let's talk just a little bit, if we can, for a minute, Suzanne, about your documentary on the Rising. The process, what's that like being personally for you? And also, has making this film changed the way you see your own story?
well, I haven't made the film yet. It's all on paper,
Right.
but how does it define my own story? I think just from a creative standpoint, knowing that I can take myself and immerse myself into a historical experience and write something that is, I wouldn't say that I'm a 1,000% correct on all of the details. Like, I have maybe a little creative license in there, but I tried to keep it as true to the story as you can. So, but I
Hmm.
still kind of call it historical fiction.
Right.
And I feel like maybe now I'm more inspired because of different storylines and different series that have come out that have made other countries more interesting to visit. I have a friend who went to Scotland all because of the books Diana Galbaden wrote. And I'm just thinking along the lines of, maybe my dream of doing this is not over, because there was a
Right.
point in time where I was knocking on doors. My dad even had an in with like through a few different people with the head of the Motion Picture Association of America, and gave my script to him, and we didn't really hear anything. So
Mm.
I think there was a point in my life where I was just really feeling a little like worn out. And I remember in writing some of this, they were worn out too. When you take all of the furniture that you can find and you make barricades with it in order to protect yourself and stay alive, you're
Yeah.
you're pretty worn out too. But they didn't quit. And I guess that's sort of a lesson for me, because I'm not going to quit. No, I can't take dynamite and blow holes through buildings.
No.
But I can at least go and into places, and while I'm there, and get some more point of reference.
I think that's a really important thing. Being here.
Yeah, it's all I've wanted to do for
Yeah.
over 30 years is come.
You're staying the first night, if you allow me just for a second, the first 2 nights you stay on the tour, you're staying in a hotel called the Gresham Hotel, which is on O'Connell Street. And when you walk out of the doors and look to your left, you will see the GPO. It is a 1 minute walk from where you are.
Awesome.
But
They were
also,
on the roof, weren't they? They were on the
yeah, they
roof of
were.
that
They were.
hotel,
They were. They
and
were.
they had communications set up. They were
Yeah.
really trying to,
Yeah.
yeah. So I
So
mean, like, I'm just happy about that.
when you're there and when you can see it, I pray that it'll all come, and that creative spark will come back again because you're there and you can
It will,
see.
and I'll probably need Kleenex. Do y'all have good Kleenex there?
Yeah,
I'll probably have to bring my own.
we'll make sure that you've got a lot of them. Yeah, and also the hotel that you're staying in is where all the plans were drawn up for the actual 1916 Rising. Somewhere in that building.
So I
Somewhere in
don't
that
know.
building.
It'll just hit me in a different way.
We'll look
And
after you,
I
though.
know it'll just hit
We'll
me.
look after you, Suzanne. Hannah.
Your career has touched government, media, hospice care, and public safety. How do you bring your Christian calling to work that deals with life and loss at such a deep level?
Oh, two things come to mind. One is I just ask God to fill me before I go out and
Hmm.
do anything. Because in my own
Amen.
strength, I'm pretty, I don't have it. I don't have my own strength. And then I have a friend who, one of the things that she says to people, she said, she basically says, lead me to those I need, and then those people to me. And may something I do today have eternal significance.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And that really speaks to what am I here for? And last year during cancer, a lot of this was brought to my for the forefront of my attention, really, because when you're sitting there and you're, not able to move very well because the chemo that I took went deep into the bones. Even though it wasn't bone cancer, there are certain types of chemo that go straight into your bone marrow, and then you can't move because it makes your bones hurt so bad. So the most I could move was from one room to another, and I had to come to this whole thing of what am I doing and how does this impact me? And I came to this point where I said, if I beat this thing, I win.
Hmm.
And if I don't beat it, I still win.
Wow.
And that's like a head knowledge thing, but it's got to get down here. And sometimes that 6 or 8 inches, that's longer than a travel overseas.
Yeah.
Um, and I had to get to that point. And so when I would go out in my in the years that I did communications for hospice, and when I was doing Christian radio, I was not afraid because I knew the Lord had me. Like I would go straight on into a different, a really tough topic. I would go straight on into trying to communicate what hospice was about to and doing marketing. And I always went in with that kind of mindset of, oh, God's got me and he's going to use me to communicate. But then when I'm alone by myself and I'm thinking about, okay, you believe God's going to use you? Do you believe God's going to use you when you're at your absolute lowest? When the doctors tell you you don't know if you've got 3 months, 3 years, 3 weeks, because
Right.
I had a very, very rare cancer. Less than 200 people in the world had it,
Hmm.
and they couldn't tell. The MD Anderson could not tell me what life expectancy was for this kind of cancer. But, and maybe I'll try to make this Cliff Notes version, but God,
Hmm.
my attorney, who was helping me with estate matters, has a daughter that was behind me in school, and he referred me to her. And she's at MD Anderson as a pathologist, and she is the one person out of maybe I think three who has written papers on the exact rare cancer that
Wow.
I was diagnosed with,
Hmm. Wow.
and they're published in the NIH.
Hmm.
And I grew up with her. She was a year behind me in high school. And he said, do you know that she's been studying this very rare cancer for about 7 or 8 years now?
Not a coincidence. Not a coincidence.
But God.
Amen.
Yep.
Amen.
Amen. Yeah, I think that is quite inspiring, Suzanne, and all that you've been through and all that you have endured. That being said, what would you say to Christian women who feel called to lead boldly, like you are, in the circumstances that you have been, but wrestle with how faith and ambition fit together? And I will even add in, how do you trust in God?
Wow. More of him, less of me.
Hmm.
I mean, but not from a standpoint of, oh, I'm rotten. I'm not any good at whatever it is I'm called to. There's a balance there. My same friend that taught me about that told me about lead me to those I need. She also taught me about morning pages. She said, every morning when you get up, just do a brain dump, like really write down everything that you're going through that day, even if you just start with a shopping list, and do that for your creativity. And it makes a huge difference. Like, sitting down, writing, journaling, putting everything on paper, it does help. It makes a big difference. Even if you're not a creative person, I have people that I have known that they're not a creative person. They're even scared that people are going to read what they write. I said, it doesn't matter. You can just sit down and just do that first thing in the morning. If it's praying, if it's being upset about what happened, that morning or that day or the day before, just something, because it just clears that part of you that holds so much energy, that's negative. And so that's helped me. And I honestly think that when God calls you to something, he's going to give you the tools to equip you to do it.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many people that have made major impacts in life that they didn't think at the time that they were doing anything. Like, we went to Europe this last month, and we went to the Anne Frank house. And that little girl, all she did was journal and write about what was going on around her. And who hasn't heard of Anne Frank?
Yeah.
And look at what impact that had on a lot of things, not just literature, but history, and really explaining what things were like. And so I think if God can use, a small girl, who was just trying to figure out the world around her, and if God can use somebody like me that has, you know, cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have cancer anymore, but at the time, if God can use me to do something different, he can use anybody. I don't think you're ever unusable, when you're surrendered.
Suzanne, we've been talking about Grace Gifford through this podcast as a woman of conviction in an era that wasn't easy for her at all. But the more I listen to you, I'm listening to a woman of conviction. I'm listening to a woman who says, do you know what? It's going to go from my head to my heart, and I'm going to believe in God. There is conviction in that, in whatever God has taken you and Brian through, both of you together. And I have no doubt there is that lineage that comes from your family line. But you yourself, just talking to you here, and I'm sure Hannah would say this as well, you are a powerful woman of God.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
In
Thank
all
you.
that you do and all that you say and how you hold yourself in what you've gone on. Maybe you've inherited some of that from Grace and others, but I'm watching and looking at somebody who is a powerful woman of God.
Hmm.
I'd like to think that Grace would be a really good Texas woman too, if she had ever made it over here.
No, she's Irish. We're claiming, okay,
I
she's
know.
Irish.
I
She's-
know.
Do the
I
Irish
know.
eat barbecue?
I don't know. Have you had barbecue lately? Oh, I'm telling you, you got to come to Texas and have some barbecue.
There's an
But
invitation. I'm on a
that
Amen.
plane. I'm getting on a plane. I really am.
the interesting thing to me about Grace was she faced a lot before everything went down,
Mm,
but the fact that she married Joseph right before he died, and then not only that, but the last part of it for me was just thinking about her being in a cell on her own within a few years later, and painting a Madonna and Child in Kilmainham, just
yeah.
thinking about her being imprisoned where she last saw her and having to probably march in the court where she saw her husband be shot to death.
Mm.
That had to been, you want to talk about an immense amount of grief. That had to have been a lot of grief for her to live that out.
Yeah.
What a phenomenal person.
Well, Suzanne, it's just been such a pleasure talking to you about your lineage and your story. And, we praise God for where you are at today. And we just thank you for being on the podcast today.
Oh, thank y'all so much. You have been such great hosts. This has been a lot of fun. And I look forward to, Hannah, please come with me. I would love for us to do that. We could go have tea and chocolate.
I love it. I'm there. And fish and chips. I'm going to add that in there too.
Yes.
All righty.
Yes.
Listen, I can take you to all the best places in the world for that. And you'll see most of them anyway, Suzanne, when you're here next April.
I am so looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Ireland has always understood something that the modern world is still trying to remember. That faith is not a private matter. It is a generational inheritance. From St. Patrick driving out the darkness and lighting the Paschal fire on the Hill of Slain, to Grace Gifford kneeling in a candlelit chapel to marry a man hours from eternity, to Suzanne carrying that bloodline into a Texas family rooted in public service and Christian conviction.
In Proverbs 13:22, it tells us this: a good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. And today's conversation is a beautiful testimony to exactly that. If you take one thing from this episode, let it be this: the story God is writing through your family didn't begin with you, and it won't end with you. Your faithfulness today is someone's legacy tomorrow. Suzanne, seriously, from Dublin, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your legacy and your family.
Thank you.
And to every listener, our prayer is that you may know that you too are part of a story that is far greater than you can see. Thanks for listening. Wherever you're listening from today, take a moment, pray for Ireland, pray for a fresh move of God, and ask what part you might play in the story He's still writing.
And if you'd like to help us continue broadcasting hope and a message of faith across Ireland, you can give today. Every gift, no matter how the size, makes a real difference. To support the mission and to partner with us, bringing God's word across Ireland, you can donate securely online at ucbireland.com. Just click on the donate button at the top of the page. And remember, if you use our partners, New Horizons Foundation, your giving is tax deductible. Thanks for joining us for another edition of the Irish Legacy Podcast presented by UCB Ireland. If this podcast encourages you, be sure to subscribe, share it with someone who needs hope today, and stay connected with UCB Ireland as we continue to amplify the voices of faith across the nation. Until next time, the same God who moved then is moving now.
Thank you for joining us on the Irish Legacy Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to share it with friends and family who are proud of their Irish roots. And to learn more about the mission and ministry of UCB Ireland, visit ucbireland.com, where you can discover more programmes, resources, and ways to stay connected. Until next time, may the Lord bless you, and may the legacy of Ireland continue to inspire faith for generations to come. Tá tú luachmhar, agus tá grá ag dahir navi dit. Go manaí an tíornid hu. This programme is a ministry of UCB Ireland.